Hey there, car enthusiasts and curious cats. It's your old pal Jay Leno here. Today we're going to talk about something that'll really turn your wheels: car steering and suspension. Now, I know what you're thinking. Jay, isn't that as boring as watching paint dry on a Pinto? Well, hold on to your hubcaps because I'm about to make this topic more exciting than a drag race between a Bugatti and a golf cart. Back in the early days of automobiles, steering was about as precise as trying to guide a drunk elephant through a china shop. Drivers had to wrestle with their vehicles like they were trying to tame a wild Mustang. And suspension? Ha! It was practically non-existent. These days, even my grandma can steer her car with one finger. Not that I'd recommend it, mind you. So, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to take a wild ride through the wonderful world of car steering and suspension. Trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds. Alright, gearheads, let's dive under the hood and take a look at what makes your car turn when you spin that wheel. Now, I'm not talking about magic or tiny elves living in your dashboard, though that would be pretty cool. I'm talking about the basic components of your car's steering system. It's like a well-choreographed dance, with each part playing its role to keep you from ending up in a ditch. First up, we've got the steering wheel. Connected to your steering wheel is the steering column, which is like the spine of your steering system. It transfers your steering inputs down to where the real action happens. At the bottom of the steering column, you'll find the steering gear. This little marvel is responsible for converting the rotational motion of your steering wheel into the side-to-side motion that actually turns your wheels. There are different types of steering gears, but the most common these days is the rack and pinion system. It's efficient, compact, and makes your car handle like a dream. Last but not least, we have the tie rods. These are the unsung heroes of your steering system, connecting your steering gear to your wheels. So next time you're out for a drive, give a little mental thank you to your tie rods. Now that we know the players in this automotive orchestra, let's see how they all work together to keep you from playing bumper cars with every lamppost on your street. When you turn your steering wheel, you're setting off a chain reaction that would make Rube Goldberg proud. It all starts with that simple rotation of the steering wheel. As you turn the wheel, that motion travels down the steering column faster than gossip at a car show. The steering column connects to the steering gear, and this is where things get interesting. In a rack and pinion system, the steering column connects to a small gear called the pinion. This pinion gear meshes with a long, flat gear called the rack. When you turn the steering wheel, the pinion rolls along the rack, moving it from side to side. The rack is connected to the tie rods, which in turn are connected to your wheels. As the rack moves from side to side, it pushes and pulls on the tie rods, which then push and pull on your wheels, making them turn. Your car also has something called Ackermann steering geometry. Basically, it means that when you turn, your inside wheel turns more sharply than your outside wheel. This geometry helps your car turn smoothly and reduces tire wear. Now that we've steered our way through the steering system, let's bounce on over to the suspension. If the steering system is the brains of your car's handling, the suspension is the muscles and bones. It's what keeps your tires on the road and your teeth from rattling out of your head every time you hit a bump. First up, we've got the springs. Car springs come in a few different flavors. You've got your coil springs, which look like giant metal slinkies. Then there are leaf springs, which are more common on trucks and look like a stack of metal strips. And for the fancy folks, there are air springs, which use compressed air instead of metal. Whatever the type, springs do exactly what you'd expect. They spring. They compress when you hit a bump and then expand back, keeping your car from bottoming out. Next in our suspension lineup are the shock absorbers, or shocks if you want to sound cool at parties. Despite their name, shocks don't actually absorb shocks. That's the spring's job. What shocks do is control the movement of the springs. Without shocks, your car would bounce up and down like a kangaroo on a pogo stick every time you hit a bump. Shocks dampen this bouncing, making sure your car settles down quickly after each bump. They're like the responsible adult at a kid's party, making sure things don't get too out of hand. Rounding out our suspension squad are the control arms, ball joints, and bushings. Now that we've met the star players of our suspension team, let's see them in action. Imagine you're cruising down the road in your favorite ride. The sun is shining, your favorite tune is playing, and you're feeling good. Suddenly, you spot a pothole big enough to swallow a small country. What happens next is nothing short of automotive ballet. As your wheel drops into the pothole, your spring compresses faster than a politician's promises during election season. This compression absorbs the initial shock, preventing it from being transferred directly to the car's body and your backside. But remember, what goes down must come up. As your wheel comes out of the pothole, the spring starts to expand. This is where your shock absorber steps in, like a stern teacher at a school dance, making sure things don't get too wild. The shock absorber controls the rate at which the spring expands, preventing your car from bouncing like a basketball. Meanwhile, your control arms are working overtime, allowing the wheel to move up and down while keeping it firmly attached to your car. The ball joints are pivoting away, ensuring your wheel stays properly aligned throughout this whole ordeal. And those little bushings? They're absorbing any small vibrations, keeping things quiet and smooth. Now you might be thinking, Jay, this is all very interesting, but why should I care? As long as my car gets me from A to B, what's the big deal? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because I'm about to tell you why these systems are more important than the secret ingredient in your grandma's apple pie. First off, let's talk comfort. Thanks to modern steering and suspension systems, your car ride is smoother than a freshly waxed bowling lane. Every bump, pothole, and road imperfection is absorbed and managed by your suspension, turning what could be a jarring, teeth-rattling experience into a gentle reminder that you're actually moving. But it's not just about comfort. These systems play a crucial role in your car's handling. Your steering system ensures that your car goes where you want it to go, a pretty important feature if you ask me. The suspension, meanwhile, keeps your tires in constant contact with the road. This is crucial for maintaining traction, which is kind of important if you're fond of things like stopping and turning. These systems work tirelessly to make sure your drive is smooth, controlled, and, dare I say, enjoyable. Now I know what you're thinking, Jay. You've convinced me that steering and suspension are important for comfort and handling, but aren't you overstating things a bit by calling them lifesavers? Well, hold on to your airbags, folks, because I'm about to drop some knowledge that'll make you appreciate these systems more than a cold drink on a hot day. Let's start with steering. In an emergency situation, your ability to quickly and accurately control your car's direction can mean the difference between a close call and a call to your insurance agent. Imagine you're cruising down the highway when suddenly, a mattress falls off the truck in front of you. With a well-designed steering system, you can quickly and smoothly maneuver around that wayward mattress without losing control of your vehicle. Now let's talk suspension. For starters, your suspension system keeps your tires in contact with the road. This is crucial for maintaining traction, which you need for, little things like steering and braking. In wet or icy conditions, this becomes even more important. Your suspension is working overtime to keep your tires hugging the road like a long-lost relative at a family reunion. Your suspension also plays a key role in load transfer during acceleration, braking, and cornering. It helps distribute the weight of your car evenly, preventing it from leaning too much in turns or nosediving when you brake hard. This stability is crucial for maintaining control in emergency situations. Now that we've established just how crucial your steering and suspension systems are, let's talk about keeping them in tip-top shape. After all, even the best systems in the world won't do you much good if they are more worn out than my jokes at a car show. First things first, pay attention to how your car feels when you drive. Does your steering wheel vibrate like it's trying to escape? Does your car wander more than a lost tourist in Times Square? These could be signs that your steering components are wearing out. And if your car bounces more than a kangaroo on a trampoline after hitting a bump, it might be time to check those shocks and springs. Regular inspections are key. When you take your car in for regular maintenance, make sure your mechanic gives these systems a once-over. They should check for things like worn ball joints, leaking shocks, and damaged tie rods. Don't forget about your tires. They're like the shoes of your car, and they play a big role in how your steering and suspension perform. Uneven tire wear can be a sign of alignment issues, which can affect both your steering and suspension. And driving on bald tires is about as safe as trying to ice skate in flip-flops. So keep an eye on those treads and rotate your tires regularly.